Okay, before we start, please spend some time reading the disclaimer. Thank you. If this is your first time coming to Zinzino Basics webinar series, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. Today is week 2 of our series 2, and we're going to talk about how Xtend helps you enjoy more energy and improve bone and joint functions. But the main focus tonight really is on energy. Because I believe energy and energy metabolism has the most impact on a quality of life, and that is what I'm all about. I'm passionate about improving people's quality of life, which of course comprises your health, your physical health, your mental health, and your spiritual health. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is today's rundown. I'll give a brief introduction to the product, Xtend, and then I'll go over some basic science. It won't be too scientific, so don't worry. So I'll talk about normal energy metabolisms, dysfunction and symptoms, and then I'll give you some strategies to improve your energy levels, and the same for bone and joint functions. So today I have selected some really interesting journal articles to share with you. So if you are interested in learning what supplements or what nutrients can actually help you grow taller, or I don't know, or maybe earn more money. So stay tuned. You will see these research papers later. So let's talk about Xtend first. It is a multi-vitamin, multi-mineral phytonutrient formula. It has 22 essential vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients in it, and it has over 145 European Food Safety Authority approved health claims, which is really a feat because we all know how strict the EFSA is, and this product alone has over 145 health claims. So it really is saying something. So I hope by the end of today's seminar, you will learn more about it. Since it has so many nutrients in it, I won't be able to cover everything in this 30 minutes. So I have highlighted some of them that will be most relevant to your energy, to how you can manage your energy, and also some nutrients to talk about joint and bone functions. And what's special about Xtend is it's an all-natural vegan formula. So everything that you take inside this formula is from either whole foods or from a natural source. And it has a wide spectrum protection, and it gives you a lot of different benefits as well. For example, it has polyphenols, different polyphenols. We have polyphenols from olive oil, from tea tree extract, and we have zeaxanthin and lutein, which are important for your eyes. And we've got broccoli extract, which has received a lot of attention in recent years for its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And then we've got seaweed extract, which could protect you from infection. And finally, 1316 beta glucan, which really is a star ingredient, but we won't be talking about this today. I'll be covering 1316 beta glucan in next week's webinar. But of course, these are only some of the nutrients contained in this formula. There are so many other that I simply don't have space to cover all of them. So if you would like to learn more, please go to the website and read the product sheet, product description. So one thing, what's great about this is it's so condensed. It's a really concentrated source of a wide spectrum of nutrients, because if you want to get the same amount of nutrients in Xtend, you would have to eat 3,000 calories of the most nutrient dense food every day. And I'm not talking about empty calories like hamburger or donuts or fries. I'm talking about real food like fruits and vegetables and superfoods, lentils, legumes, mushrooms, these things. And if you take it with balance oil as a xenobiotic, you will have complete nutritional and immune support. So let's talk about energy metabolism. What is energy? We hear this term all the time. So in scientific terms, or from a cellular perspective, we talk about ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, which is our cell's currency for energy. Let me give you some interesting statistics. So each second in our body, we are using 1,000 ATP molecules, and that weigh about more than 15 kilograms of ATP per hour. But our cells can't really store ATP. They can only store about 85 grams of them, which is only enough for a 10-second sprint. And the implication is we need to constantly generate energy in order to survive, in order to function. Just think about it. Can you think of anything or any activity that does not require energy? Even when you're lying still on bed, you are still consuming, you're still burning energy because your heart is pumping, your kidneys are constantly working to keep your blood clean. And so there really is nothing that you can think of that is happening in your body that does not require energy, which also means we are a constant energy burner. We need energy all the time. And if our cells can only store about 85 grams, that's a 10-second sprint, we need to constantly create and produce energy. If there is some defect in our energy generation mechanisms, well, then there will be some really serious consequences. So where does all the energy we make go? Well, just like I said, our heart and our kidneys are constantly working. So they each consume about 440 kcals per kilograms per day. And our brain, even though it's only 2% body weight, it uses 20% of our energy needs, and it's always consuming energy. Even though you might be sleeping, you think you're resting, but your brain is still working, because when you're sleeping, your brain is hard at work to consolidate memories and to improve its function as well. To contrast it, our resting muscles only use about 13 kcals per kg per day. So how is energy produced? This is what, well, if you've done some high school biology, you would have heard of the citric acid cycle, but we're not going to talk about it in detail today. What I would like to highlight is, you see all these numbers here? They actually are the different vitamins and minerals. So we've got a lot of B vitamins here. As you've probably heard before, a cell is really a battery. And where is energy produced? It's in the mitochondria. This is a mitochondrion, and in every step of this energy producing pathway, we see here, finally, we have an ATP. Either one or more of the B vitamins are involved, which means if you have deficiency in any vitamin B, you will have problems producing energy. So the vitamin Bs, the B vitamins, are essential because they act as coenzymes in the energy production pathway, like we've just seen. And all of them are involved in energy metabolism except for folate. I'm sure you've heard of folate. Pregnant women need to be supplemented with folate to prevent some neural tube defect in the fetus. But it's also very important for DNA synthesis and red blood cell production, which is a process of rapid replication needs folate. And if we don't have enough folate, then we will have impaired oxygen transport. And as you know, in order to burn glucose or our food for energy, we need oxygen. If we don't have enough oxygen, our energy level will be affected. And even when you do the balance test, our test results actually depend on our red blood cells. And so everything really is connected. Okay, like I said, I won't be able to go into detail of every single nutrient, but I have picked some of the major vitamins and minerals in energy metabolism. So like I said, all of the B vitamins are important. They are responsible for the synthesis of hemoglobin, which is the carrier protein of oxygen throughout your body. And it's important for absorption and utilization of iron, since hemoglobin really is an iron-containing protein. So it's also very important for our energy. Neurotransmitters in our brain, sleep regulation, membrane structure. And then there's also vitamin C. About 35 to 55 million years ago, our ancestors lost the ability to make vitamin C. We actually used to be able to do that, but now we can't, so we have to get it from food. And vitamin C is associated with better physical functional health. And there are also iron, magnesium, which are important for oxygen transport, muscle contraction, and cardiovascular functions. So these are all important for energy levels. So what are the symptoms if you have a low energy level? Well, you'll experience fatigue, muscle weakness, poor physical performance, lethargy. You will be constantly falling asleep, dozing off, or longer reaction or processing time. This is about your brain. So if you don't have enough energy, your cognitive performance will be affected as well, which means it takes you longer time to react, to respond to something, which also means that you might not be as smart as you would like to be. And then there are also memory problems. So this graph here, you might be thinking, why am I showing you a lottery ticket? No, this is not a lottery ticket. This is actually a chart showing the different deficiencies in developed countries. There are many others, but I'm only showing 3 here: Germany, USA, and UK. And then red means more than 75% below recommendations, and green is, so it's kind of similar to our balance test. Red is dangerous and green is safe. So if you look here, I would like to highlight these 3 here. We have vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E, and this is USA. If you remember from one of our past seminars, we talked about 3 Harvard scientists who shifted the blame of cardiovascular diseases to fat away from sugar back in the 1960s. And if you look closely here, these 3 are actually fat-soluble vitamins, and you need to have adequate intake of lipids, fats, in order to absorb them properly. And I don't know if there is a link. I'm just guessing here. Well, it just so happens they are fat soluble, and they all happen to be gravely deficient in the USA population. So I'm just guessing maybe there is a link between them. And we see a similar trend in the UK as well. So in different countries, it's interesting to see that in Germany, they're actually deficient in folic acid, folate, whereas in other countries, in USA and the UK, they're better. But this is just, a general idea. If you're interested in learning about other countries, I'm sure you can easily find this online. I got it from a medical journal. Okay, so if you've heard of the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance, well, that is not actually the optimum level. That number only tells you if you have an intake lower than that number, you are very likely to get some symptoms of deficiency. So we have what we call marginal deficiency and frank deficiency. A frank deficiency is obviously it's way below, so you're getting all the symptoms. So if you have a suboptimal level, you won't be showing any symptoms yet, but you're not having optimum function or performance. Even the US government acknowledges it now. They said recent findings have determined that less than optimal biochemical concentrations have been associated with risks of adverse health effects, which also implies that the RDA values are actually inadequate for us to enjoy optimum health. So you really need to set a higher standard for yourself, for your own health's sake or for your family. And some government agencies now acknowledge that the benefits of micronutrient consumption may continue on a continuum well above the recommended dietary allowance. So they are saying that if you consume more than the recommended value, you're actually enjoying progressive health benefits. That's what they're saying. So let's look at this research to see whether this actually works. So in this systematic review of they did a statistical analysis of the relationship between vitamin B12 and the blood level in adults and elderly people, and they found that every doubling of intake above the RDA actually increased the blood levels of B12 by 11%. Well, but as of now, we really don't have, what I mean to say is they need to update these values, but then at the moment, we don't have enough data or research to support the idea of an optimal level. So, and at the end of the day, it's all very personal because we all have our unique genetic makeup and our own different lifestyle. So you need to monitor your body and to fine tune your dosage to see what really is optimal for you. So you need to work with a professional medical practitioner in order to find out what's really best for you. Okay, so last week I briefly talked about type B malnutrition. I said it's not the malnutrition that you find in developing countries where people don't have enough to eat. Type B malnutrition is actually most commonly found in developed countries where people do have enough to eat, but they're still not getting enough nutrients to meet their nutritional needs because food quality has deteriorated greatly. If we look at this picture here, today, if we want to get the same amount of nutrients like calcium, iron, vitamin A and C as an orange back in 1980, now we have to eat 8 of them. That's how badly the nutritional content of food these days has deteriorated. And it's also because of modern industrial agricultural practices and soil depletion. There just aren't enough nutrients left in the soil, and because we're also eating an unbalanced diet and we're eating a lot of ultra processed food. So if you're experiencing low energy levels or an energy dip or fatigue, what are the major causes? In a study, people reported that the major reason was poor sleep or lack of sleep. Here, I am linking the different nutrients together. So if you have poor sleep, you might want to check out your B5, B6, and magnesium levels or supplement them. As people also said, it's because of family and professional worries or might be environmental factors. But the most important reason really is stress. On the first slide, we talked about ATP, the currency, the energy currency. So in some research, they found that when you're relaxed, for every molecule of glucose, your cells can actually produce 36 ATPs. But if you're stressed, you only get 2. That is 1/8 what you should get. It's like a huge salary cut if you look at it that way. So stress really is one of our biggest enemies. And did you know what the number one reason for energy drains is? It's relationships, toxic relationships in particular. So you have to be aware of these relationships, especially those that don't serve you anymore. And since we're at the beginning of the year, you might want to think about, staying away from people who don't benefit you in any way or who are always causing you stress. And also, on a physiological level, it could be a dysfunction in oxygen supply. We know that oxygen is needed for energy. And how much oxygen do we actually need? If we look at the brain, for 100 grams of the brain tissue, each minute we need 3.5 milliliter. And how much is that? If we look at the whole brain, suppose a standard, a regular brain weighs about 1.33 kilograms. It needs about 46.5 milliliters. And how much is that? Well, let's put it into perspective. In a can of Coke, you get about 126 milliliters of gas. It's mostly carbon dioxide, of course. It's not oxygen, so you can't burn that. You can't use that to produce energy. And the brain actually uses 20% of our oxygen needs. And in comparison, muscles at rest only need about 1 milliliter. But when it's under stress through exercise, it needs as much as 50 times of its oxygen needs. And there is one very important reason for low energy levels, which is anemia. It's the decreased level of hemoglobin, and it could affect your physical and cognitive performance. And 2/3 of the iron in our body are actually found in hemoglobin. And if you have an iron deficiency anemia, it's going to reduce your oxygen supply greatly. And in this study, they tested whether supplementation with iron can improve conditions of anemia in pregnant women. And they found that on its own, it's not very effective. But if you use it in conjunction with B6, then it's a lot more effective. Which brings us back to the theme that no nutrients really work on its own. You need a whole host of them to work together, because in nature, no one single nutrient exists on its own. So if you have low energy level, what impact will it have? Well, in a study, 2/3 of subjects said that, they don't feel energetic at all. They don't have enough stamina or strength. Up to 75% said they don't have any motivation, which is very serious, because if we think about quality of life, if you don't have any motivation, it's actually the beginning of some really serious mental issues. It could be depression, it could be chronic anxiety, and you would be questioning, well, if I don't have any motivation, what's the meaning of my life? You don't have a sense of fulfillment, and you will feel stuck. And 50% of people reported having low spirit and lack of vitality. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to go to work, you don't want to do anything, you just want to lie there on your bed. And if you think about a scenario like that, there really is no quality of life. And low energy also affects your performance, maybe at school or at work, or even in other areas of your life, concentration and memory. And it also impacts your cognitive performance. In this study, the researchers found that doctors who had an overnight shift performed much better in a diagnosis. For example, a radiologist perform much better in their diagnostic. And if you have a fracture, whether it's in your arm or in your leg, and you go to a physician who's on a night shift, overnight shift, it's going to take him as much as 34% more time to fixate a fracture, which also means you are going to endure more pain than you should. So really, energy levels affect everyone. Okay, so what are the strategies for you to combat this, to increase your energy level? First of all, you need to have a balanced diet. If you're not sure that you are getting everything you need from your diet, then you can consider supplementation. In this study, 120 young British women who were mildly deficient in B2 had had supplementation of B2 for 8 weeks, and the results show that they had increased hemoglobin. So it actually does work. So supplementation does work. And in this particular study, where they took 44 workers and they gave them an oral dose of vitamin C for 2 weeks, and they found that the blood vitamin C level increased. So this tells you that what you eat, what you consume, actually shows up in your blood. And they also reported lower perceived fatigue. So it does improve your energy level. It makes you feel less tired. And this is what I talked about earlier. Supplementation or good nutrition might actually help you earn more money. So according to WHO, there is widespread iron deficiency in certain developing countries, in China, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka, especially among the especially among farmers, and they have lower work capacity if they have iron deficiency. But through supplementation, they found that they had increased work capacity and productivity, and they also had 10 to 30% more salary than before. So iron, or supplementation or good nutrition might actually help you make more money. And it does make sense because we know that energy levels can affect your cognitive performance. And if you, for example, let's say you don't have balanced brain functions, you're very bad at sticking to your plans or taking consistent actions or planning or just executing your tasks. Through improved nutrition, you might be able to improve all these functions and you will perform better at work, which also means that you might have better prospect in your company or in your career, and there's more earning potential. Okay, so coming back to our theme of micronutrients and nutrients working in conjunction with each other, we have this study that was done on 58 healthy adults. They had 4 weeks of supplementation with vitamin B. So the B vitamins, vitamin C, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, and they showed significant improvement of mood. And the researchers said that this supplementation could actually induce brain changes because they found high activity in brain region that was associated with working memory, even though they were in a mental fatigue situation. So it's quite promising. Now let's talk about bone and joint functions. So our skeleton actually constitutes about 14% of our total body weight. In America, 10 million people over 50 have osteoporosis, which is a very serious condition where you're losing your bone mass, and 34 million more people have low bone mass. So they don't have osteoporosis yet, but they are slowly going towards that direction. And in elderly people, hip fracture is actually a major risk factor for immortality. And if you have bad bone health, your risk for hip fracture or fracture in general is much higher. And old people who have hip fracture, among them, 1/5 of them die within 6 months, and a quarter of them die within a year. And one thing very particular about bones is that they are very dynamic, meaning they're not dead tissues. They are living tissues which are constantly turning over. So they are being broken down all the time and being built up all the time. That's what they call constant remodeling. And the formation of bone tissues, after they're broken down, they need to be rebuilt again, requires adequate supply of a whole host of nutrients, including vitamin D, calcium, phosphorus, etc. And then there are some lesser known nutrients, which I will talk about because the more well-known ones, you can easily find lots of information about them. So the lesser known ones are vitamin K, zinc, copper, and magnesium. Vitamin K, it's important for bone strength, and insufficiency is associated with osteopenia, meaning that you don't have enough bone mass. It's not yet osteoporosis yet, but yeah, slowly progressing towards that. And increased fracture risk. Half of the American population consume less than the recommended value. But vitamin K is actually not suitable for people who are taking warfarin because it's an antagonist. So if you're taking warfarin, please consult your doctor before starting any nutritional regime. In this study, with a form of vitamin K, it's called menaquinone, which is found in Xtend. They found 244 postmenopausal women, and they were supplemented with MK7 for 3 years, and they had significantly improved bone mineral content, because if you don't have enough mineral in your bones, they will become brittle. They will not be strong enough to withstand impact, and enhanced bone strength and decreased loss of vertebral height in thoracic region, meaning, you see some old people who are losing the strength of their vertebral column because there are actually fractures in their spine. So what this study shows that is there is decreased loss of vertebral height in the thoracic region. And menaquinone 7 could actually be found in natto, which is a fermented soy product in Japan. Okay, the next one is zinc. It's important for collagen synthesis. We know collagen on our skin, but there's actually a lot of collagen in our bone as well. It's important for bone rebuilding, like we just talked about. And the elderly people are most at risk because they have been found to have the lowest serum zinc level. In this study, in China, they found 156 preschool children, and they gave them supplement 3.5 mg of zinc per day, and then they found that they actually grew taller because of the supplementation compared with the control. So if you have children at home, I mean, this is not a health claim, and this is not confirmed by the EFSA, but well, I mean, we need it for good bones anyway. So take a multivitamin and multimineral supplement for your kids to make sure that they have the best chance of growing tall. And then now we have copper. It's a trace element. We don't need a lot of it, but it's important for the maintenance of normal connective tissues. It promotes mechanical strength of collagen to make your bones stronger and more and to give more flexible connective tissues as well. And supplementation has been shown to reduce bone loss. And the last one is magnesium. 60% of the magnesium in our body are actually in bones. Magnesium can prevent brittle bone, by preventing large crystals of minerals in our bone. So if the crystals are very big, they are actually brittle, but if they are small, then it actually gives the bone structure and strength. So it can increase bone mineral density as well. And if you have a deficiency in magnesium, which a lot of people actually do, it can affect bone growth, bone formation, and it can cause bone fragility as well. If you supplement with magnesium, like in this study that they did in Israel, they found women with osteoporosis, and they were supplemented for 6 months and then subsequently for another 18 months, and they found that the bone density increased significantly. So now that we've talked about so many different nutrients, now let's connect all the dots together, because we need to take a holistic approach, which is also why this is a multi-nutrient formula instead of single nutrients. You need to combine lifestyle changes such as stress reduction techniques and weight-bearing exercises to stimulate bone growth, and aerobic exercises, and also healthy eating like we talked about, and supplementation, to have a holistic approach, to have an all-encompassing good health regime. We know that exercise stimulates the growth of mitochondria as well, and we learned earlier that mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. They produce energy. So if we have more mitochondria, we have more energy available to us. And exercise also reduces stress, so it's good as well. And exercise improves our bone strength and density. And one stress reduction technique that I recommend is conscious breathing. It's very easy. It's you can do it anywhere. All you have to do is bring your awareness to your breath, or you can count your breaths, and this can very, very quickly calm yourself down. So if you find yourself in the heat of an argument, take the time, have the courage to walk away and calm yourself down, with conscious breathing. Or if you're constantly under stress, take time every day, 5 minutes is all it takes to calm yourself down, to reduce stress. So if you do a combination of all these strategies together, then you will have a much better chance of enjoying optimum health. And one thing that I need to remind you again is supplements are not meant to be a substitute for a healthy diet. All these nutrients have a synergistic effect with each other. In fact, it's very rare that you find only one nutrient in a natural food, because they all work in conjunction with each other. And one final piece of advice is, please reduce all those factors that negatively impact your nutrition, such as alcohol, because alcohol can negatively affect the absorption of the B vitamins. And we know that B vitamins are important for energy production. And if you drink too much alcohol, that's going to affect your level of energy as well, and tobacco as well. And one thing that you can do to prevent osteoporosis is do regular bone screening, because if you don't, when you find out that you have a hip fracture, it's actually going to cost a lot of money to have a replacement or other surgical procedures. So always go for prevention first. So next week, we're going to talk about xenobiotic and protect. So we'll talk about the prebiotics and also 1316 beta-glucan, how they contribute to gut and immune health. So this is the end of my presentation today. I hope you've learned something helpful for you. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Thank you.